What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsome, you rock. Now let's get into today's Precon upgrade with Blame Game. And guys, this is by far my favorite Precon out of the four. All you have to do is ramp into your commander as fast as possible, and then you're going to draw a ton of cards while goading your opponent's most important pieces. The only problem is this deck is going to fall flat if the commander ever gets removed. So we're going to add a little more card draw, that way if she ever does get removed, we're not just top decking. And then additionally, we're going to add protection to protect our commander, since she is such an important piece to the strategy. After that, we're going to add more goad synergies and more ways to gift our opponent's creatures. That way, again, they can just attack each other's more. We also are running a little bit of ways that cut back on the cards they draw. That way we can kind of get an advantage while they're kind of stuck at a crawl. Not really the nicest thing to do, but honestly, it's going to be super effective, and this is almost the perfect commander to do this strategy with. Additionally, once we've done that, we're going to beef up the removal, and then after that, we're going to have a pretty solid deck. So, before we get into the upgrades, guys, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Into the AM. Guys, I'm obsessed with these shirts. The way they taper at the sleeves, it's just so amazing. I'm wearing an extra large right now. Fits me perfectly. They have a ton of graphic designs. They're very affordable and they're very soft. Again, you do not feel the logo on the inside of the shirt, which is one of my pet peeves. So if you want to upgrade your wardrobe on a discount, we've got a $10 discount code that they've gifted to me and viewers of the channel. So go ahead and enjoy that. Now, let's get back into today's deck tech. The first thing we're going to add is Balden. We can actually keep a full grip in a Boros deck for once, so that's going to be absolutely insane. Additionally, Nelly Borca just has a big butt, so she's going to hit for 11 as long as we have a full grip, which is going to be amazing. Spirit of the Labyrinth is kind of fucked up in the deck, but honestly, it's going to put us way ahead of our opponents. They're not going to get the card draw off of Nelly Borca just because of their one card per turn, and we are going to get the card draw off of Nelly Borca because we haven't drawn any cards on their turn. So while we're netting 4 cards a rotation, they're only netting 1. It's going to catapult us way ahead of our opponents. Fireman Commando not only gives us card advantage, but additionally it incentivizes our opponents to again attack our opponents instead of us. Oxdrover, another way to get card advantage while additionally giving our opponents creatures, that way they have something to attack with. Wheel of Misfortune is going to be a solid way that we can refill our hand. Court of Grace also seemed pretty solid here. There's a pretty good chance we can keep the Monarch as long as we get a decent board state out, because again, we will be forcing our opponents to attack each other. Additionally, it's going to give us some solid blockers or solid game enders depending on if we're making those spirit tokens or creatures. Professional Facebreaker, again, we kind of get some card advantage here with another way to generate treasure tokens, which is always super powerful. Grenzo is going to be another solid way we can start goading all of our opponent's creatures. Notably, this isn't once per turn, and then we can also just start casting spells from the top of our opponent's library. Sound of Drums is going to be absolutely insane in this deck. The fact that we can cause that creature to do double damage while we goad it, and then additionally we can return this card from our graveyard, is just going to be crazy. Baloth is not only going to net us treasure tokens whenever those goaded creatures die, additionally it can goad very small creatures, so those go wide strategies are going to have to attack our opponents. The War Games seems super fun in this deck. We're going to gift out a whole lot of warriors, we're going to buff those warriors up, and then the Saga is going to get rid of those warriors before they become a problem for us. Laser Screwdriver just had enough utility for me to want to play a 3-mana rock. Not only do we have the ability to add mana to our mana pool, we can go ahead and surveil, and we can even goad opponents' creatures, which is the main reason we're including this. Bastion Protector is just going to be solid to protect our commander, making sure we can attack with her without any fear of having her die. We are also adding Swiftfoot Boots, that way she can't be taken out by any targeted removal. Blasphemous Act is an absolute staple for me. If anybody goes insane and starts going super wide, it's 1 mana wipe the entire board. You have to love it. Mob Rule is going to be a solid game ender in this deck. You kind of play it after you remove 1 to 2 players, and you use it as a kind of finisher to kill the last player, taking control of their board state and just swinging out for the win. Taunt from the Rampart. Now, this is 5 mana. I'm not going to do anything for a turn, but you guys are going to start attacking each other. Not only does it take away their ability to block, everything's got to attack. It's amazing. We also are adding Generous Gift for some solid flexible removal. Now, moving on to some of the non-budget options, Smothering Tithe is probably one of the best cards you could put in this deck to synergize with our commander. Since we are allowing our opponents to draw additional cards, this just means more treasure tokens. So now we'll have all the mana to dump our entire hand out onto the battlefield. It's going to synergize perfectly with this commander, and honestly, it's just a broken card in general. Luminarch Ascension also kind of just feels like it was made for this deck. The fact that this is kind of a Boros Pillow Fort deck that uses goat effects and other effects to disincentivize our opponents from attacking us means that this is going to be really easy to get off. So now for only 2 mana, you can generate 4/4 angels, which can absolutely end a game. I mean, especially if we have Smothering Tithe out, yeah, you just win there. Moving on to the cuts, we have Feather Radiant Arbiter. Now, this is just clearly not meant to go in this deck. You can kind of do some stuff with the auras in the deck, but honestly, you're probably just going to cut her and build her as a separate commander, and that's just going to be more efficient. Winds of Wrath is also kind of weird in the deck since we are mostly enchanting our opponent's creatures, so it's going to wipe the entire board, keeping the goated creatures around. That's something I really don't want to do. I kind of just want our board wipes to be board wipes, so Blasphemous Act is just going to be better. Ransom Note, I genuinely think is not going to be that great of a card. 3 mana for a one-off goat effect, yeah, that's not where we want to be. Prisoner's Dilemma. Now, this is 5 mana, deal 4 damage to every opponent. There is a scenario where somebody takes 12, but 9 times out of 10, it's just going to be 5 mana, deal 4 damage to each opponent. That's just going to be bad. It's a fun card for sure, so you can keep it in if you want, but again, it's not going to get us there. Mob Verdict is a pseudo board clear that can draw you some cards here and there, but again, when I need cards like this, I need to know that they're going to do what I want them to do. So I'm going to cut this in favor of cards I can depend on. Agitator Ant and Orzhov Advocus are also going to get cuts here. My reasoning here is they are goat effects, but again, giving your opponents choices can be very dangerous. The fact that they can buff up their big creatures, kill your opponents, and then kill you with those big creatures because they don't stay goated forever, you can just kind of lose the game to your own cards out of nowhere. Vow of Duty and Vow of Lightning, we added some hard goat effects to the deck instead of these. The problem with these is it does prevent them from attacking you, but it does not goad them. So you can enchant a creature and they can just leave it as a blocker. So I'd rather have solid goad effects instead of you can't be attacked effects, if that makes sense. Boros Reckoner is also going to get a cut here. A 3/3 with First Strike just doesn't do it anymore, especially when Brash Taunter is already in the deck and does the job just infinitely better. So again, easy cut. Immortal Obligation. I understand it's a goat effect, but guys, I do not want to be recurring my opponent's creatures. It's just something I don't want to do. Ancient Stone Idol. This one's very massive, but again, I think we can just run more efficient creatures in the deck. Anya, again, this is just going to be a big beater that kind of comes into play late game. So early game, almost useless. Late game, big beater, but you're probably on your way to winning any game. Wall of Omens is just a defender that replaces itself. I'm not really into that kind of card in this deck, honestly. And then we have Angel of Ruins. Not very efficient removal. 7 mana to remove 2 things. I get it as plain cycling, but again, we can just add Generous Gift and be a lot happier. I cut Selfless Squire here in favor of the effects that mass goad our opponent's creatures. This is just going to ensure that we don't have to worry about that massive crackback while actually helping the game plan of the deck. Deflecting Palm. Now this card's kind of a meme. You kind of throw it in a deck like, hey, maybe one day I'll win with this card. The problem with it is it only prevents damage from one source. So as they attack you with 100 1/1s, it's not going to do much except for just prevent 1 damage. Again, it can make some really funny plays happen where you absolutely blow out your opponents, but honestly, it's more of one of those bucket list cards and then you take it out of a deck. Comeuppance is kind of the same scenario here. We're we're just going to save our mob rule instead of cards like this. That way, whenever our opponents take out the last remaining opponent and it's just a 1v1, we just cast our mob rule and go for the win. Last but not least, we are cutting a land. If you are also going to include the non-budget options, cutting Gideon's Sacrifice and Solemn Simulacrum also kind of seems like a solid choice. That's going to do it for today's upgrade guide. Be sure to leave some of your own suggestions in the comment section down below. With that being said, guys, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.